Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about stuff and things, I'll be going over how to apply for Naked and Afraid. Now before I continue, link below are some surveys. There's the Largados y Pelados Excel survey and the Last One Standing survey. Please fill those out if you haven't already, and if you don't, that's fine. And back to the video. Although I have never personally applied for the show, I have applied and booked various background extra gigs here in Georgia. Plus, I've seen a lot of reality TV show related content. So I do have some insight into the TV and film industry and some of the casting processes and what producers are looking for. And I also know what to look for in terms of scams. And so I hope to help someone who may be looking and hasn't looked at the Facebook groups, because usually people ask in the Facebook groups, hey, how do I apply for the show? And people usually send a link, and maybe this will be the first thing people see so they don't have to go asking so many questions everywhere. But I first wanted to talk about scams. Now, if there's a casting person or quote unquote casting company that's saying, hey, if you pay us money, we'll submit your application, that's usually a scam. Casting companies won't ask for money when you are applying to be on a TV show. You could pay money for a subscription service such as Backstage Access, where you can find various casting roles for TV and film. But when you want to apply, people will not ask you for money. If they do, it's a scam, and avoid those people. Now, the best place to look for an application for the show is Metal Flowers Media. That's right, www.metalflowersmedia.com. I'll link below the application, and here is the application page. Although for the Naked and Afraid part, that usually isn't there, but when the application is saying, oh, which show are you applying for? You can put Naked and Afraid, and then scroll down and you'll fill out all the information. They'll ask you questions about what you look like. They'll ask you questions if you are in the military. They'll ask you about your accomplishments. They'll ask you 3 of your best qualities, 3 of your worst qualities, and they'll pretty much get information about you and who you are as a person. And the most important thing to know when applying for Naked and Afraid is to be your authentic self, because if you start lying to them, then while you're doing the interview process and keep moving up in the casting process, they'll figure out real quick if you're lying, or if you are lying and are able to convince them to cast you. The facade will be hard to maintain while you're starving in the wilderness, and it might not end well for you, because there have been survivalists who have lied on their application process in the past, and it didn't really work out well for them. So make sure to be your authentic self, and also start thinking of a storyline, because when the producers are starting to think about casting and who they want to put together, it's usually opposite kind of situation, where there's the tough military person and the nature person who loves nature and peace and harmony, just to make it interesting. But also think about stuff that's happened in your past that you could talk about, something that you overcame or something that happened with someone you know, and just kind of using that to weave the story of you taking on this challenge and being like, okay, I wanted to do this to show that I'm strong, or I wanted to test myself, or I wanted to do something that's out of my comfort zone, or I wanted to show that I have the skills necessary to make it through this challenge because I was underestimated, and, you know, overcoming adversity. And just start thinking about kind of what kind of narrative you would want to weave, because when you're applying, the producers are looking and they're like, okay, what stands out about this person? So you gotta be yourself, you gotta stand out, you gotta have an interesting story, and you just gotta kind of go with the flow with everything, answer things honestly. And it's always good when you have a really big upbeat personality or a very stoic personality, but you gotta make sure to keep it consistent. You can't go changing wildly on them and trying to be something you're not, because if you try to be something you're not, then they'll pick up on that and be like, we don't know if we want you on. Or they'll want a wild card. So be your kooky self, turn yourself up to a 10, and just go for it. But yeah, that's some tips and tricks and how to apply for Naked and Afraid. I will link the application below. Start thinking about what kind of storyline you would want. just know that anything that you give them while you're on the show will be used to create your narrative. So if you have a few moments of you being like, oh, I'm really tired, I don't know if I could do this, I want to go home, kind of thing, that's what they're going to show. So be very mindful of your attitude when you're out there. Just prepare for it to stink. Like, don't go in there talking about making Mother Nature your B word. Don't do that. Go with the flow. Be nice. Just don't say something that you might regret later. Just be humble, be cool, and everything will turn out as okay as you can while surviving 14 or 21 days in the wilderness. And also on days 4 to 6 is when the ketosis kicks in. So all that negative emotions will start flooding your bodies, but you got to pick yourself up. You got to have a good attitude. You got to make it through. You got this. And you can also potentially chat with various survivalists about their time on the show, or learn some tips and tricks of surviving out there and dealing with some of the physical, mental, and emotional challenges out there. Just please be nice. Do not harass the survivalists. Do not be mean. Support your favorites. And a lot of the survivalists go on the Facebook pages, so just look up fans of Naked and Afraid and Excel, true fans, uncensored misfits. Look for those pages. A lot of the times the survivalists comment on them. They're active on Instagram most of the time, so you could potentially message them there. I've chatted with Tara, Joe Ortlip, and Andrew Shade quite a bit. So just don't harass them and be nice, and I'm sure they'd be willing to help you as much as they can because they don't want to break their NDA, but they do have more insight than I do. This is just kind of a introductory video, so if you want to learn more, you can potentially chat with them. Just please be nice and all that jazz. Thank you all so much for listening. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And also click the next video if it's mine. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.